What is up, everybody? My name is Chris Murphy, and with me is Patrick Soukup. Patrick, why don't you tell everybody the elevator pitch for the Fort Collins Fellows and what they're going to see?
If you're coming to listen to the Fort Collins Fellows, you're coming to get all the information necessary and needed to live the best life possible in Fort Collins, Colorado. Let's go.
Right, here we are, Patrick. Moving right along, buddy. How you doing this week?
I am doing great. We've got a closing today, which is always fun, and I'll see you later this afternoon. But excited to have this conversation this morning with Toby and Nuance.
Yeah, we're gonna talk chocolate this week, everybody. And so to this month's guest, we got Toby. Is it Toby Gadd? Am I saying that right, Toby?
That's correct. Yeah, Toby
perfect.
And Alex Gadd. My wife and I are both the co-owners and co-founders of Nuance Chocolate.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And for those of you in Fort Collins who don't know about Nuance Chocolate, we're going to give you some information today, but it's phenomenal. And so, Toby, I just kind of wanted look into doing some research on your chocolate shop. I got here, are you guys the largest selection of single origin bars in the entire world? Is that still the case for you guys?
That is still the case, to the best of our knowledge.
That is.
And, yeah, it's a funny thing, right? It wasn't meant to be something we were trying to achieve. We didn't even know such a thing existed, really. Alex and I are both chocoholics, and we're always trying different ethical and sustainable beans from around the world. And we come across something that's unique and delicious. We put it out. So we just kept doing this until we realized we didn't actually have any table space on our counters anymore, right? So we were hitting those higher numbers. And then people started asking, like, does anybody have any more? And we started doing some research and spoke to several people who have a pretty good idea of these things and did our own research too. And it quickly became apparent that no. And really the reason for that, again, obviously that our addiction and our always need to find something new and fun and interesting is that we are mostly retail. So we don't really do the wholesale thing. So wholesale, you're usually stuck with a few different products that you have to stick the same label on year after year, the same SKU. And because Fort Collins loves us so much, we put something out we think is good and people are willing to give it a try. And more often than not, they also agree it's good.
That's awesome.
So honestly, it's we have an addiction and we have a bunch of enablers.
It's a good combination to have right there. So explain a single origin bar. Like what exactly does that mean?
That is a great question. Really, really is. So first of all, the term is not a regulated term, right? So it's not something that you're going to find in a dictionary. And this is the prescribed definition.
Chocolate nerds.
Chocolate means a chocolate nerds, right? Is an origin can be small as a single estate or even a single plantation. Can be as large as a country. And what that means is something in common in how they handle their beans, their cultivars of the plants themselves. And a cultivar is like a varietal of grape in winemaking, right? So the wine guys, they made up their own special word, but actually those are cultivars too, right? So the cultivars and the fermentation methods, right? Chocolate's a fermented food. So something in common that resulting in a flavor profile that is specific to that region, right? We call that a single origin. So again, it can be pretty broad, pretty small. And,
so like Costa Rica, you're getting the beans from one farm and everything is coming from the same basically house. So
exactly, it's the same grower. So that's a region. You wouldn't say Costa Rica would be a single origin as far as the entire country, because Costa Rica, everybody's doing it differently there, right? You drop into a farm out of the sky, and you're going to land at very, very different beans depending on where you land.
Okay.
A place like Ghana, right? Ghana actually has a national cacao board, and the country has a fairly uniform method of doing things. There is some room in there, especially around the ethical aspect. There's some fair trade plantations, things like that, because there's a lot of ugly side to cacao in that part of the world, right? A lot of child slave labor and things like that. So, right. So there are some better, some worse plantations from an ethical perspective, but in general, the beans are pretty uniform across the country because of that national standard.
Now, are you guys traveling? How are you guys coming across these plantations and farms and sources?
Yeah, I wish we were traveling. That was actually part of the plan when we started Nuance 8 years ago. My wife and I both love tropical stuff. We love playing on the beach. We both love diving. And so we thought this would be cool. We can do this business, maybe take 1 or 2 trips a year to some wonderful part of the world and hang out. And how cool would that be? The bummer part is that right as Nuance started, our son became chronically ill. So between having a new business and a really sick kid, unfortunately, travel is out of the game, and for the foreseeable future, we don't know what's that future is going to look like, but not so good. So yeah, how do we get our beans, right? We get our beans a number of different ways. One, we have a great supplier, John Nancy, Chocolate Alchemy. That's a fun collaboration. There have been times when we've brought in beans that we've been approached, like the example of the Costa Rica bean you're talking about. That was actually a CSU student, came in out of the blue, and he said, "My parents own this plantation. Do you want to try our beans?" I get that a lot, actually. We get that fairly frequently. People around the world send me beans, and a lot of them are just horrible, right? It's like there's good chocolate, and there's bad chocolate, and there's so a lot of times I always try them, right? Because maybe put that one gem, and the Costa Rica bean was one of those gems. Amazing chocolate, good story from the family, ethical, sustainable, the way they're doing stuff, really up our alley on that angle. And so actually we brought a bunch of beans in with John Nancy's kind of collaboration. So he sold some of those beans to their chocolate makers, and we got our beans, and it worked out well. So yeah, a number of different reasons, but number of people who approach us now is fairly frequent. And unfortunately, a lot of those aren't very good. Some of them are maybe just kind of a defect that keeps it away, or sometimes it's just downright horrible. And occasionally it's fantastic. And of course, those moments of discovery, right? Throw me a new bean, and we work with it until we like it. And yeah, then it makes the tables at Nuance.
Now, when you try that, is that like you try the cacao bean right then and there when they bring it into you, or is that after your 90-hour kind of process of creating it as part of it to become chocolate?
Yeah, it's funny, right? You think maybe we could try that bean and see how the bean is.
Eat it like a nut, like eating like a thing of nuts.
Yeah. So first of all, you don't want to eat a whole lot of raw cacao, right? That
Okay.
stuff tests positive for Listeria, E. coli, Salmonella. We kind of like getting a chicken and thinking, maybe I should give that chicken a lick and see if it's going to make a good chicken sandwich.
Oh,
Probably not a good idea, right? You want to cook that chicken first. And also defeather it and these things you do with the chicken to make it tasty. So yeah, we actually have to go through the entire process of chocolate making before we really know what it's going to be like. And when we go through that process, I can tell on a kind of a test profile we have whether the bean has some defects that would keep us from using it. There are certain things, like kind of acids that we don't like and we can't get rid of. One of those I would describe as basically vomit, right? We can't roast that out. We can't melange that out. It's part of the character of it. And if we get that in there, no good. We also get what we call dog food. It's meat, right? But it's not good meat. It's like Alpo meat. And again, if we get a bean with that kind of profile in there, we can't change it. But if we get a good bean, we're like, hey, this has got potential, or know that none of these really massive defects in there, then we will order a bunch in and work on refining that profile to the point that we're like, hey, this is.
Are you saying really dog food like it actually tastes like dog food, or is that just a term you use?
No, it actually tastes like dog food. Yeah.
Oh,
it's like kind of a rancid meat. I've never eaten dog food, right? So I guess I can't totally qualify that, but I've smelled a lot of dog food.
Oh, and vomit. Okay, I was just like, maybe these are just
no. These are not esoteric terms. These are quite literal.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. So those ones we don't want those beans, and I can't make anything good with them. Yeah.
So Toby, real quick, just kind of go back a few steps. Talk a little bit about when did Nuance open? And you guys only have one shop in Fort Collins, is that correct? But
that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us when you guys opened up and how you just. I mean, I know you guys love chocolate, and you went on this adventure, and you guys got addicted, and all of a sudden you outgrew the kitchen. But when did that whole process start? When did you guys open your doors here in Fort Collins?
Yeah, so yeah, we discovered what chocolate really was, I guess, about 3
everybody
years.
loves. Everybody wants to be a chocolate maker. I mean,
actually, nobody even knows about chocolate makers, right? Like there are thousands and thousands of chocolatiers out there, and chocolatiers will take somebody's industrial base of flavor, shape, and remold it. Okay. But there are a very small number of actual true chocolate makers that are taking the beans and hand sorting, roasting, and making chocolate. And I've been a chocoholic. My wife has for our entire lives. My previous business, we would for lunchtimes, we would sometimes sit down with a bunch of different bars from other places, and we would nibble them and taste them and take notes and geek out on that, thinking that this, we're chocolate experts. We know a lot about chocolate. Yeah. Well, honestly, it was actually bullshit. We knew very little about chocolate. Turns out, we took a trip to Costa Rica. We travel a local experience when we travel. I don't want to stay in some resort and be out of touch with the land that I'm in, the people that live there. So we stay away from a lot of those kind of heavy tourism things. But we're traveling the way southeast corner, and on this little road in the middle of freaking nowhere. And there was this sign posted on the edge of the jungle that said Chocolate Museum. And it was a hand painted sign, right? And there was no neon, no glitz, nothing like that. So
You knew it was authentic.
yeah, exactly. Or that it was a lure, right? Like it was, Costa Rica is pretty darn safe, awesome country, but their stories were like, yeah, how do you lure a bunch of chocoholics to their demise? Well, you put his painted sign on the side of the road, right? So we turned into it, and there was this muddy clearing cut out. I mean, not much, right? No other signage. And we're kind of like, well, what happens now, right? This is maybe the lure hypothesis is becoming maybe more reality by the moment. And this guy walks out and he's wearing a Speedo. I grew up in Canada, right? Speedos are not that uncommon where I grew up, but in the States, one does not wear a Speedo, as I learned coming down as a teenager. That's not what Americans do. And then anyway, so he walks with Speedo and rubber boots with the toes cut off. I'm still trying to figure out about the toe part, but
a new Halloween costume for next year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
right. So we're like, okay, this is interesting by the moment. But we don't speak much Spanish. My aunt was with us, and she promised us she spoke Spanish, but she, I think, spoke less than we all expected she could, including herself. And so through some words and some gesturing, we understand we're supposed to follow this little path off into the woods, and we're going to meet up over there and go through the chocolate tour. And the car is insured, nothing in it. What do we have to lose, right? This guy, despite the fact that his interesting attire, seems like a nice fellow. So we head off, and it was amazing, actually. We met up our guide. Her name was Kendra. We consider her one of the patron saints of Nuance chocolate. She actually was a descendant of slaves brought over for cacao generations ago. So she has this fascinating history, and we're going to hunt her down sometime to do some stuff with her. But so she wandered to the jungle with us, and she had this huge machete and this little pink purse. I love the image of this, right? She figured out pretty quickly we like to taste things. So she was hacking stuff off jungle trees and make us taste this and that. And I thought, again, this could be interesting. Are we going to be standing by the end of this, right? Are we going to have visions? Like, what's going to happen here?
Is it going to taste like dog shit?
Yeah, right. Nothing did. So we didn't have any over meaty dog food. At the end, she hacks this pod off this tree, chops it open. And inside there's this sweet stuff and these, funny looking nut bean things. And that was the first time I'd actually tasted or seen raw cacao, like a whole cacao pod. And like a lot of ecotourism things, it's a pretty common practice. They will ferment those and then roast them in a frying pan a lot of times, and crack a winnow by hand to get rid of the husk off the bean, and smash them into some sweetened condensed milk. And that was the first time I'd ever tasted anything like that before. So here's somebody who was a self-declared chocolate expert realizing, wow, I'm in this little ecotourism thing in Costa Rica, and I know nothing of what's going on here. It blew my mind how complex, how tasty, how delicious, honestly, how bizarre and strange it was compared to what I thought chocolate was supposed to be. So, long story short, we came back to the States and I started buying gear and we started making chocolate, and it was this consummate hobby. It got way out of control.
What year was that?
The exact year was about 3 years before we opened. So that was 2022. So I'm reversing the math here, but just so it was about 10, 11 years ago, I guess. Okay. So yeah, something like that. Yeah. So we started and we bought all kinds of gear. It was crazy. I sold my prior business, so I had not a lot of money, but a little bit of money and too much time. So I was mostly riding my bike and doing this hobby and trying to decide what the hell to do with myself next, right? There were some opportunities in kind of corporate America, leadership positions, but I was pretty burned out with that. I spent a lot of time as a consultant with that and thought that wasn't really what I wanted to do. My wife had a history in environmental risk assessment, working on Superfund sites. And when we had our son, she left the workforce to raise our son. With women get really screwed once even if they're really highly trained skilled professionals like she was, getting back after doing some years with kids, they just don't. So trying to figure out what to do with herself, and literally on a whim, we're like, hey, this chocolate stuff is cool. Maybe we should make a chocolate company. So we were driving along out by Windsor one time, just shooting the shit and talking about this, and got home and I was pretty excited about it, and I was like, well. She's like, well, how serious are you about this, right, Toby? Like, she's seen me start several things in life, and tend to be kind of a do-it-yourselfer geek. I like doing things myself. I like the adventure and discovery of figuring stuff out. And so I don't know, let me go down and I'll write a business plan, see what that looks like. So I went down to my basement that night and wrote up a business plan. And by next morning, it was like, this is a good idea, right? But we took a week to think about it.
That's cool. Where did you come up with a Nuance?
Yeah, the name Nuance. So when we were doing it as a hobby, we'd often make some chocolate and go on a walk on the Poudre Trail, the bike path, tasting our latest creation to see what it tasted like. And the word nuance is the word that always came up. So, well, it's got like nuances of grapefruit or these really nutty nuances.
Gotcha.
So we made a list, probably 100 different names, and nuance just always stayed at the top. We had some really dumb names in hindsight. I looked at that list a while ago. I'm like, oh my God.
What was the dumbest name that you came up with?
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm kind of embarrassed, but it was Pan's Fury.
Pan's Fury chocolate.
Right? Yeah, the God Pan, right? And Dionysus, the whole idea of tasty things and the wild dreams and nightmares and crazy chocolate and the fury of Pan. We ran it by a few friends. They gave us pretty funny looks and wanted to know what we wanted to do about what's the Disney character?
Kung Fu Panda?
What's that?
Kung Fu Panda?
Yeah, no Kung Fu Panda, but the kid who always stays a kid, right?
I know what you're talking about. I can't think of it now.
Yeah,
right?
this is good, right?
Yeah.
We're a bunch of real thinkers. This one, but they're like, what do you have to do with that? And
that's
anyway. Funny. So yeah, it was a stupid name. It was also part my wife loved goats, and we went to have a mascots, and so we actually do have a goat still have a mascot, so that part stuck.
Toby, you need to get a picture, and maybe you already do in the shop of when you guys went down to Costa Rica with that chocolate museum. Did you guys? That would be great to have a little picture up in your office. I don't know. That was just my.
Yeah, we've got one or two. We've actually talked about doing that. So
Speedo in the boots.
We're looking at doing some kind of a documentary down the road where we actually go down and meet Kendra and reintroduce ourselves, because I think she'd be thrilled. We had a lot of fun on that tour, and she was just a wonderful person, and honestly to hear what she had done to inspire us to start this company, I think she'd probably be pretty psyched on that.
Yeah.
So we'd love to. That's something that we have in the plans, in the works eventually.
So one thing I've always wanted to ask you, or not always wanted to, but I wanted to ask you when we got this interview set up. So for those that live in Fort Collins, if you're hanging out in Old Town, you will see somebody from Nuance Chocolate walking with like a rickshaw, or I don't even know what it is, down College Avenue, and it's filled with. I would love to know, because I know what they're doing. They're obviously moving something from your factory to the shop to sell. But for all of us locals here in Fort Collins, and we see the Nuance, the cart being pushed down the street, what is that about? What's going on there?
Yeah, right. People are starting to hold us up.
I've heard
some degree with more legitimacy than the other ones, right? We actually have a lock on that cart. Yeah. So what it is, the factory is about 2.5-3 blocks away from our shop on Pine Street.
Okay.
And usually that's Alex, the co-owner of Nuance, pushing over chocolate every day to sell in the shop. And it's kind of fun. We were trying to figure out how to get chocolate from our factory a few blocks in there, and parking Old Town multiple times a day, and both Oak Street and Pine Street, they're kind of hard to get in and out of on one side, right? Mm-hmm. So to drive from one to the other, we literally have to drive all the way around Old Town. So we're like, let's get a cart that we can push us around, and we look at different carts. And we found this, it was really cool on eBay. We found this French vending cart. It was like an antique thing, right? It was just totally cool. Yeah, it was like $10,000, right? And it was an antique, and we thought the wheels would fall off. But the inspiration was there. So I actually found a wheelwright in Pennsylvania that actually makes real wheels, right? In the old fashioned way. And he puts rubber on them, though. You can get them with metal, but rubber's better for the streets, a little less clattery. And so we designed and had custom built this cart, this 3-wheeled cart. So yes, we pushed that through rain and snow and hail and whatever else back and forth. And it's usually Alex pushing it. Yeah, it's almost always Alex. She hand dips the truffles and brings them over.
So they're not the candy bars, but just the truffles are in.
Oh, don't call them candy bars, man. You can hurt their feelings.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, these are chocolate bars, right?
Chocolate bars.
Chocolate bars, right?
Chocolate bars.
That would be like getting a good whiskey and saying, I love this pop. you know?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. Chocolate candy. That's so bad. That's so bad. That was
Find some culture, Chris.
God. I know. I had no idea how complex the chocolate industry was. Now I will say, years ago, my wife and I went to a trip to Europe. We went to Belgium, and we did go to like a chocolate museum, and it was amazing. Like, I mean, this thing went on forever and ever and ever. And at the very end, we actually got to see them like make chocolate and everything like that. Now, and I this debate in my house is like, I've always loved white chocolate. My wife's like, white chocolate is not chocolate. And I was like, it's white chocolate. It's chocolate. And so I raised my hand like it's just a stupid American tourist. And I'm like, can you just clarify something for my family and I? Is white chocolate really chocolate? And this lady kind of gave this long answer and everything like that. But she kind of said, yeah, it's chocolate. So I feel like I've kind of won the argument. But Toby, is white chocolate chocolate?
Yeah, as if I'm going to settle this, right? This will be the question of the ages. And unfortunately, you got a long answer last time, so you're going to get a long one again, right?
Yeah.
So let me tell you what white chocolate is, right? So white chocolate is made with cocoa butter. Cocoa butter is the fatty part, right? All the fats and oils from the cacao bean. So most commercial white chocolate, to call it white chocolate, you have to have a certain percentage of that bean in the final product, right? So that's a pretty darn low percentage for white chocolate, depending upon the region and the country, things like that. It can be like 5%.
Okay.
Now, good cocoa butter is actually a pretty expensive product. And if you've probably noticed, white chocolate is it's cheap, right? Mm-hmm. So what they do is they use the very low grades of cocoa butter and they chemically deodorize it. So it's a good thing, right? Because if this cocoa butter, these low grades, it tastes freaking awful. It's terrible stuff. So when you deodorize it, it doesn't taste awful anymore, but what it does taste is like Tupperware, right? It's a lipid, right? So it's basically, you turn it into like a plastic at the end of the day. Tupperware isn't offensive. I mean, you don't want to eat it, but when you put your food in there, you're not thinking, oh my God, why am I putting my lunch into this weird plastic thing, right? It's pretty innocuous. So they start with that, right? Because that's cheap, and then they can call it chocolate. They typically bulk it out with a lot of hydrogenated fats and oils. Again, those are kind of Tupperware ingredients, hydrogenated fats and oils. We're talking Crisco. Next time you open Crisco, give it a sniff. Doesn't really smell like anything good. It doesn't smell bad, but it doesn't, my first thought when I smell a thing of Crisco is, I want a spoonful of that, right?
Yeah.
But it looks amazing. Different. I always wanted to eat Crisco. And then like I realized that it was like a cooking material when I was growing up. But it looks so good. It's just like, but I agree. Yes.
Yeah. It's disgusting. So what they do is they add typically a non-fat milk. We use non-fat milk, better shelf life, right? And non-fat milk is typically not very good. So they mix this amalgamation of stuff up, and at that point, nothing I described, nothing really sounds like bad. Doesn't really sound very good. So they put artificial flavor in and things like that to make it actually taste like something.
Sounds like my wife won the argument.
Well, yeah. So most white chocolate, I think, is pretty much. When I tasted it, just tastes like artificial vanilla. And like I'm the kind of guy, give me a cookie with that stuff in there, I'll pick it out. I think it's gross, right? Now, I do like candy, by the way. Give me a nice caramel with that buttery, Maillard-y reaction in there, stuff, delicious. Now, Nuance sells 2 white bars. So
you do? I didn't know that.
Oh, right. So after what I just said, why on God's green earth would I sell a white chocolate? And actually, that goes back to my father. Now, my father doesn't like chocolate. Otherwise he's an okay guy. Just want to put that to bed, right? But I guess like a lot of brewers, like maybe Dad doesn't like a good beer, right? He likes Old Milwaukee's Best. That's his go-to beer. And Bud Light, right? Yeah, we gotta be careful. We can't diss Bud too strongly here. This is a Budweiser town, right? Our macro brewer on the edge of town. But yeah, Bud Light. A home brewer who's into that stuff might make Dad a Pilsner, right? And maybe he's making IPAs and stouts and good beers. But to keep Dad in the loop, he makes a nice Pilsner, and that keeps everybody happy. So my wife and I were making chocolate, and we got this batch, this big box of natural, non-deodorized cocoa butter. And that stuff smells amazing. It smells good. You actually do want to eat that. If that were in your fridge, like the Crisco thing, and it smelled like that, you would get your spoon out and start eating it. And I was thinking about my dad, and I was like, he likes white chocolate. It's the only thing he likes. What if I made a batch of chocolate using a lot of this and some nice whole fat milk and a little bit of Madagascar bourbon vanilla bean? What would happen with that? And it tasted good, and we shipped most of it to him. and we kept a little stack of bars in our kitchen. Now at that point, this is not for me, right? I don't do white chocolate. My wife's the same thing. We're like, we'll put those over there and maybe show them to somebody sometime. And I found myself nibbling on the damn things, right? Because it was tasty. And my wife was doing the same thing. And we didn't realize that the person was doing it, right? So I kind of apologized one time for having eaten all the white chocolate. And she's like, actually, I've been eating it too. So there we both had to confess. So we have a natural, non-deodorized cocoa butter white chocolate bar. It is 36% natural, non-deodorized cocoa butter. It actually tastes and smells like chocolate. So whether or not you can rip out the fats and oils and still call it, and use only those and call it chocolate, that can be an ongoing debate. But does our white chocolate look?
The debate is settled.
The debate, well, I guess, right? It's to me, it tastes.
That sounds like a pretty unique offering to what you just said. Comparatively to just dumping a whole thing of vanilla extract oil, and having it taste like that. With what you guys came up with is like the chemistry behind it is pretty cool. So you guys are just mad scientists back there kind of playing around with different things at different times, huh?
Always, right? There are always fun things that come along, and we don't put our failings out. People always like, oh, you guys are amazing. And I'm like, yeah, if only you see the other side of this, right? The things that are not good. But yeah, we get ideas and we try stuff and we burn things and we make some really truly god awful chocolate. And fortunately, we make enough good chocolate that
Dima, cut that part out. That'll be the very beginning of the episode, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Let's set that one in the front of that one. That'll give me nightmares.
Well, speaking about mad scientists and chemistry. Okay, we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, but talk about some of the different offerings you have with distilleries, maybe breweries, or different restaurants here in town that you might find some nuanced flavorings in their offerings.
Yeah, Fort Collins is a fun town, right? When we thought about opening this company up, we decided this would work here because of the beer culture and honestly the spirit culture and this interesting kind of evolving craft food market that Fort Collins has seemed to gravitate towards. A neat town that way, really unexpected actually. But so we work with distilleries like 5003 and Copper Muse, Feisty Spirits. And we used those ingredients in our truffles and our bars. Local coffee roasters, work with Cafe Richesse and Bean Cycle and Lima Coffee. And the fun thing about working with these guys is that we can develop something that's better than we could otherwise. Sitting down at the cross table with another maker, I will point out this is hard work, right? So sit down with another maker like a distiller and a bunch of spirits and a bunch of chocolate, right? And we have to find what's going to work together. I mean, it's brutal, man, putting those heads together and drinking all that whiskey and all that chocolate. Somebody has to do it, right? Yeah.
Patrick and I are available.
Exactly. We always get volunteers about this stuff. And during COVID, especially, we always did it outside, sit in front of the shop. People walk past and there are all these bottles and chocolate and these very happy looking people. And they're like, what the hell is going on here? And then of course we work mostly with our ingredients, mostly with the brewers. We've worked with anything from the big guys in New Belgium to small guys like, Gilded Goat and, Barrel House and Snowbank. And I mean, I think we've worked with pretty much every brewery in town now at one point or another. And they use our husk and our nibs. And the husk is one of our, it's actually a waste product, right? It's the part we can't eat making chocolate. It's the outside part of the bean, but it carries a really neat amount and complexity of flavor of chocolate that you throw that into the mash. People dry hop with it. It's fun. Each brewer does something different with it, right? And that husk, and they use the nib sometime as well. The nib side is the inside part of the bean we actually make the chocolate from. So they throw those in those beers, and it isn't just the beers you might think, right? Sometimes it's, people think, well, must put this only in stouts. I mean, we've thrown that stuff in IPAs before. I made these really neat layers of chocolate in IPAs. It's just delicious. And these people are fun to work with. What's that?
Toby, you ever work with Black Bottle?
Yeah, we do work Black Bottle. Absolutely. Yeah. They've made some amazing stuff with our things.
Sean Nook over there who owns that. He's always been pretty creative about using some funky ingredients to create some beer.
Yeah, we about Black Bottle when you were talking about creating a beer for their dad. Friar Chuck over there.
Friar Chuck, yeah. Love Chuck. So are you going to open another shop?
No, not right away. No, we're pretty busy right now. Again, it's probably because my son, the conditions there, we're pretty stretched pretty thin right now.
Okay.
But would we? Possibly, yeah. I mean, most interesting proposal we've had, and this was a legitimate one. Some people from Dubai wanted to open a Nuance chocolate in Dubai. And really? Yeah, right. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to, Dubai's too hot. I don't want to end up being a jet setter to buy all the time, but it's an interesting idea. So, would we open another one down the road? Absolutely consider it. Do we have plans right now? No. We'd love to integrate our factory and our retail shop together under one roof.
Cool.
That's something we always match. Yeah, right. Because then the cart's cool, but we'd love to be able to actually show people and do tours.
Yeah, exactly. Do the tours, see the chocolate being made.
It is magical, right? Being able to show people that would be so cool. It would be really fun for people to see how that works.
Well, it's like you go to Little Bird Bake Shop and you kind of see them working in the back, creating everything that's sitting out front, kind of like what you guys have as far as like the glass shield and having the the chocolate and everything, but then having behind it, seeing the bakers put together what they're doing, and there's definitely I don't know if this is the right word, but there's like a nuance to it, as far as like this is kind of a cool feel, environment, and culture around it. So yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, it's funny. We actually stole the displays concept from Amy at Little Bird, so she knows that. She knows that. Yeah, exactly. I was like, don't mind if I just borrow this from you. But yeah, I think the appeal of that is it's authentic, right? So much of the way we interact with the world these days is inauthentic. It's got some label on there, and it makes it look fancy when you pick something up in the grocery store. It turns out that every grocery store is actually selling the same product with different label on it, coming out of some manufacturing center in New Jersey, and it's got, this sounds local, but it's not. And so everything we do is authentic. That's why we work with local people, right, on our collaborations. It's why we do everything ourselves, why we use artificial flavors, artificial fillers, colors, that kind of stuff. I want people to walk in and be like, this is real. And it's what you see is what you get. There's no BS on there. So yeah, showing that factory off would be super cool. So we keep looking. Maybe we'll find the right space sometime. Old Town rent is expensive, right? So putting a manufacturing facility in Old Town where you're mostly paying retail rents is a limitation of that. And I know some guys in real estate. Maybe they can find an answer for that.
I was just gonna say, hey, Patrick, I can't do the commercial loan, but I know somebody could help you out.
We've got this episode that's going to be coming out in the middle of November. We were thinking Nuance chocolate, be fun, holidays, chocolates, people thinking about Christmas presents, going out, spending time, the Friday night light, or the lighting ceremony is happening this Friday night, November 4th. And people come from all over the world to Fort Collins and walk around downtown. So we thought this would be cool. Do you guys have any seasonal chocolates that you guys have coming up that if somebody were to hear this, they'd have to come in and check out the shop and taste this seasonal chocolate that you guys got going?
Yeah, we bring a couple to the course of the months there, and right now we have our buttermilk spice. Oof. It's cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, that kind of stuff, kind of like a chai thing. It's got great seasonal fall thing, and we have that in our French style and our sipping chocolate and a truffle and a bar. It's a great combination, works well with chocolate. So we do those things. Yeah, the night lighting is awesome. We love that. We're actually really, really busy that evening.
I bet.
So I recommend, unless you want to, it can be an hour-long wait on that particular night once it lights up. All the staff over here, we get packed up. But yeah, so love to see you then, but love to see you after or before too, if anybody wants to come by and try that out. We do peppermint as well. We have a peppermint thing we bring out a little later, a little closer to Christmas. You gotta have those around.
Absolutely.
So we love those flavors and those collaborations. Yeah.
Nice. Well, Toby, thank you so much for coming on and telling your story. And we love your chocolate shop. And Patrick and I always have we have a question we ask kind of at the end, and I might change it up a little bit this time. Well, maybe I'll just ask both of the questions. But first, I want to ask you, what is your favorite chocolate?
Oh, that's asked all the time, right? Oh, and I'll be honest. I hate the question. Right.
All right. We'll pass that question. We're gonna
completely insane. And here's why.
I had it like circled right here. I was like, favorite chocolate.
I know. I'll be honest. We're all friends here right now, right?
How about favorite candy?
Here's why I hate that. Oh, now you're just hurting me. Going for the jugular.
Yeah.
Now here's why, right? Because it's chocolate. A single origin chocolate has 600 naturally occurring flavored compounds. That is 3 times as complex as red wine and far more diverse. That's one of the most complex foods that we eat. So, I'm working with hundreds of different beans around the world, and we whittle that down to the top about 3%. So 97% that are not there on my deck are not my favorites, right? I've taken it down to the top 3%. And beyond that, it's kind of like a brewer, right? I mean, like when I drink beer, I actually like stout with fish and chips, kind of traditional that way, or a porter. I like IPA with Mexican food. It kind of somehow enhances that heat. So what I've eaten last and what my mood is, it's like, what's your favorite finger? Are you picking your nose, or are you trying to yeah, exactly. Are you trying to get a ride on the cab, right? Or is the guy just pissed you off in traffic? Doesn't context matter? So true with chocolate. So we're still friends, right?
We're still going to send you business as much as we can.
Well, we're also going to ask you a second tough question, because you have so many great relationships, which the question that we always to end with is, on a Friday afternoon, I know we're moving into fall and winter, but on a Friday afternoon, let's just call it a sunny afternoon, which patio are you going to go sit and drink a porter or a stout? Now, granted, maybe not on a sunny day, but which patio are you going to go enjoy your beer at?
I have a lot of fun. We live in Windsor, and we ride our tandem bike in through Fort Collins sometimes. And we've done exactly that, hanging out at Odell Brewing on their outside, and putting the bike up against the fence and drinking a couple of beers, and then riding back home. Not as efficient on the way home, obviously, but yeah, that's a lot of fun. So there's so many patios to choose from, but yeah, I do love Odell.
I think Odell is just like, is hands down, like
So
everyone
good.
wants to say it, but it's like the
So
things that like everyone says, but it just is an awesome patio, cool vibe. Like the feeling that you get walking over the bridge, into their shop, and into their, it's just super cool. So
It's super
can't
cool.
argue
And
with
they're
that.
all good. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah.
that's something we gravitate towards in the path there. But same thing can be said of New Belgium, and I mean, there's so many patios in Old Town.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So
Cool.
yeah.
Shout out to Snowbank too on the episode. That was nice. I like Snowbank.
Yeah, Snowbank is fantastic. They make some
Yeah.
fun stuff. They're actually the first collaboration that we did with beer and chocolate with Snowbank. They were there at Snowbank. So their patio, their beer is fantastic. Their patio is not as cool.
The parking
But
lot.
actually, funny thing is,
tough.
they actually they occupy the same building that was my previous business.
Oh, no way.
So hanging out and having a beer at with some chocolate over at Snowbank is a wonderfully nostalgic and really uplifting thing. That what was reborn out of that location. It's super cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Well, Toby, I appreciate you coming on. Fort Collins is absolutely, this is, Fort Collins fellas, we are super lucky with that. We have entrepreneurs and people willing to take big risks, starting businesses and bringing cool concepts to Fort Collins. Because as we are a growing community, upwards of 180,000 people, we still don't have the major metro type food or, options that have seen in those big metros. But people like you bringing cool options for folks like us here in town that we can stick around and enjoy the world's largest single source chocolate maker here in our own town and backyard is pretty special. So I appreciate you and your company and your wife putting this on and really spending so much time and effort on what you guys do.
Thanks a lot, Patrick. We wouldn't be here without the community. This is why we're here. People always ask me why Fort Collins. It's where we lived, right? And we thought this would work here. And yeah, without the folks here, we wouldn't be here. So
Well, I second everything Patrick just said. Toby, thank you so much. And go get chocolate, people. Go buy some chocolate. None of that white chocolate garbage. Get the real stuff.
Cool.
Thanks, Toby.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
See you, buddy.